So we've got some more Madame Web news, Michael.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, some more Madame Web fallout, to be more accurate.
I'm like, mad. Damn, Web.
Dakota Johnson says that she will never do a film like Madame Web again.
Oh, I saw this, actually.
Yeah. It was definitely an experience. I probably will never do anything like it again because I don't make sense in that world. The top reply is, to be fair, she doesn't make sense in most worlds. Also, I don't want to start in the worst reviewed movie of the year to ruin my career. Yeah. That is
one good reason not to do that.
Yeah, because if it had been a good movie, she probably would have said that. Yeah, she's trying she's trying to distance herself from the movie. I think she also said like, "Oh, it got critically panned," and she was like, "Yeah, that's fair." Like it's like we have to review Madame Web. You know what, Michael? Instead of reviewing Morbius before we review, before Kraven the Hunter comes out. Instead, we will review Madame Web because...
Oh, wow. I can't believe we're giving people a glimpse behind the scenes at, our process. We just find funny stories and let's review that.
I want to know what he was doing researching spiders with her mother in the Amazon right before she died.
Yeah, I want to know how that turned him into a vampire. Hello, and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past, we give them a couple of watches, and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host, Michael, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Luke, and this week we are celebrating the Oscars by looking at Everything Everywhere All at Once, because of course we like to look at all the films that were nominated for Best Picture last year, and one of those films was Everything Everywhere All at Once, so Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Sure thing. So Everything Everywhere All at Once is a 2022 American absurdist comedy drama film written and directed by Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, who produced it with the Russo brothers and Jonathan Wang. Did you know that?
No, that's a funny name.
No, the Russo brothers.
Oh, sorry. No, I didn't know that, but yeah, obviously they do the Marvel movies. So hold on a minute, that ruins it, because now I'm just like, oh, so it's just it's Doctor Strange then, isn't it? Now that I know the Marvel's associated with it.
There's so much multiverse stuff going on, and the Russos were involved in this one as well. So it was directed and written by the Daniels, of course, and they managed to win Best Director and Best Picture at last year's Oscars, which of course, like you said, Michael, is why we are reviewing it. The movie stars Michelle Yeoh, Stephanie Hsu, Ke Huy Quan, Jenny State, Harry Shum Jr., James Hong, and Jamie Lee Curtis. The release date was March the 25th, 2022, so almost 2 years ago. So it's crazy that this managed to win Best Picture considering the budget, Michael. Well, maybe not, because of course low budget movies have won in the past as well.
Low budget movies, I'm hearing this. Okay, I know exactly where to go from this.
Well, of course you have to assume it would be low budget. It wasn't going to be 80 million, right? Was it?
No, it wasn't, though. So I'll just scratch off that guess.
Okay, so what was the budget, Michael, for Everything
$160 million.
All at once, tell me.
I don't know, like 30 million.
But 14.3 to 25.
Oh, no, that's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you guessed more still, even though I said it's low budget. So you still
that's
managed.
Really funny. That's classic. That was a classic Michael moment.
I know, a classic Michael moment. That was, but what will the next classic Michael moment be? That is the question. Will it be after you guess the box office?
Oh, definitely not. I'll nail this. So it's going to be. I think this movie made. It made 360 million.
What?
No, it didn't. It didn't. What did I just say? I didn't say that. It made like 140 million.
Why did you guess 360?
I don't know. I guess it's just because you mentioned the Russos and I had Marvel in my head, and I was like, oh, so like what's like a low amount that a movie can make? Then I thought about it and I was like, well, it's not a Marvel.
Did you
movie.
Actually think about it?
Well, I just had the Marvel in my head, and that's kind of like that was my benchmark. But then I didn't really think about it properly, and then when you said what, I thought about it a bit, and I was like, actually, maybe 360 million is
the thing
is a lot of money.
Your second guess was fantastic because it was 143. I don't know why you said 360. That was dumb. 143 million was the box office. So very successful considering the budget, and of course, considering the Best Picture win as well. So, Michael, can you tell me whether you liked Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Well, I've said before, there's, I think it's important to look for, consistencies in one's opinion. And there's one thing which I've said a few times, which is I'm not wild about films that are really fast paced, and some might say hectic. And with that in mind, I liked this movie. I did, because obviously it's a Best Picture winner. Unless it was Crash, I'm not going to say that I disliked it. I was surprised that I wasn't actually very invested in it. That was my issue. I felt like sometimes it almost seemed like my eyes were just glazing over. And that is my opinion. So I'm obviously not going to say I disliked it, but I did not think it was really good, and I wasn't actually that excited. Like, I didn't really feel a lot of the emotions that I would want to feel while watching a movie I enjoy while watching this movie. I was more just thinking, oh, that's cool, neat. So yeah, I guess... I mean, I'm probably still going to give it a positive rating, but relative to the fact it was Best Picture, I guess I can say that I didn't really like it.
Well, yeah, I thought it was really good.
Good.
I thought, yeah, I was engaged.
This is terrible, Luke. We never disagree.
I was engaged in the movie throughout. I thought, yeah, it was pretty fucking good. Like, overall, like, I mean, I don't know what more you want, really. Like, there's a reason why this won Best Picture, because it's not an Oscar baity movie, is it?
No, it's not.
It's not. It's very fast paced, like you said. I don't have a problem with movies being fast paced.
Yeah, well, I remember when we were first talking about whether or not it was going to win the Best Picture, the exact words I said, where I said, "Oh, I knew this movie was going to do well," when I heard that all of the the kind of artsy fartsy movie kind of review channels were saying it was really good, but also all of like the pleb movie channels that talk about Star Wars also said it was good.
Yeah, it has universal appeal, and that is impressive. You get people who are film snobs, maybe, who really like it, and I don't know if I'd consider myself a film snob necessarily, but
you consider yourself an aficionado.
Okay, we'll go with aficionado then. But I really liked it. Because I was a bit skeptical going in, a bit cynical, because
it's like,
it's about multiverses, and I'm like, I don't really care that much about multiverses in general. But yeah, I think that there's a flaw in the movie. If there is a flaw, there's a lot of explaining to go through, and there's a lot of things that need to be explained, because it's a high concept movie. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of explaining, but once you get that, I think it works pretty well, and I think the rules and the logic make sense. But it's just the explanations. I think if you watched it for a second time, Michael, I think you would enjoy it perhaps more because of that. But then again, you said you didn't really connect with the characters or what the movie, the emotional stakes. You didn't really get it, and I have to say I did. I was invested in it, and yeah, like I am fine with any kind of movie, to be honest, if it's executed well. And there's characters in it who have character arcs, and there are, of course, character arcs in this movie. And yeah, there are themes again to explore. And yeah, I think that there's some heart to this movie, Michael. And I think the key is Ke Huy Quan. See what I did there?
Yes, because he's from Indiana Jones.
Yeah, and the thing is, I did wonder last year when he won Best Supporting Actor whether this was kind of like a narrative award, like, oh, he was short round in Indiana Jones, then he gave up acting, then he returns and gives a great performance. That's why he's winning Best Supporting Actor. But he, I think, gives the best performance in this movie. His character is the key to this movie, and because it's the heart of the movie, and he gives a great performance because he has to do a couple of different roles because he's in different universes and so on.
He has to wear many hats. Yes,
and he delivers the best line in the movie as well, which of course is the taxes line, which we'll get to. But yeah, I think I'm just looking at Wikipedia here. The film explores philosophical themes such as existentialism, nihilism, surrealism, absurdism. It does all that, as well as themes such as neurodivergence, depression, generational trauma, and Asian American identity. It does all of those things, and there are some overlaps to that, like nihilism and depression, for instance. It's like kind of the same thing in regards to this movie. Yeah, it does a hell of a lot. It's very high concept. They managed to fucking nail it, to be honest. And yeah, I have to say I liked it. Like, it's really good. So let's get on to the nitpicks, Michael. How many do you have?
I have one. It's maybe more of a nitpick. I don't know. You can decide.
Okay, well, go on then.
So I believe there's a lady played by the actress Jenny Slade. I think that's her name. And I believe she is Jewish. And at one point, she's referred to only as Big Nose. That's the thing that happens in the movie. and I thought that was funny.
Oh, I thought you were going to say anti-Semitic.
Yeah, well, that's why I found it funny, because I thought it was, I thought it was a good-natured anti-Semitism, and I just thought, given the current context, there's a certain group of people who maybe deserve a good ribbing. So I, let me look up if Jenny Slate is a Zionist.
Well, the thing is, like, it doesn't say on her. How do you know she's Jewish?
I somehow I do. Let me see.
Somehow.
Jenny's
on some interesting forums.
Control F Jewish. It does say so. If this is what I usually do for all of my actresses or actors. I don't discriminate. I go onto their Wikipedia and I Control F Jewish. I'm getting 11 results on her Wikipedia page. So
okay. Well, to be fair, Jenny Slate does have a big nose. That is indisputable. But maybe it's rude to point it out or cast someone specifically because of their big nose.
Yeah, or like cast a goy with a big nose,
Yeah, maybe it's a bit too on the nose.
Don't you mean a bit Jew on the nose?
No, I wouldn't say that, no. But yeah, so there you go. That's your nitpick or lip pick, depending on whether you're in the anti-Semitic mood or not.
Yes.
I guess.
Which I think is ultimately, that's what the best nitpick is. It's one where it can be a nitpick if you're anti-Semitic.
Okay, so my nitpick is, so Michelle Yeoh's character, Evelyn, there we go, she is almost, always doing the occupation that she needs to do when she universe jumps.
That's actually a good point. Yeah, very convenient.
So it's like, oh yeah, I need to have the skills of a chef. She jumps into a universe where she is a chef and she's performing that job.
Yeah, do they ever... Okay, so this is going to be maybe the first example of where, there's something that's explained. But I think we're probably just supposed to infer it. Did they ever clarify...
What do you mean something that's explained?
Well, I'm going to ask a question.
So this is why you don't like the movie, because you don't understand it.
Well, I don't know if I don't understand it. Okay. Let me see. Because this is something which, as far as I know, was not explained. Do they explicitly say that you basically kind of go into that universe at the exact moment you're in? Or is there like an implication at any point that you can kind of go into separate universes at separate points in time?
No, well, there's no implication of the latter.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I was just wondering that in terms of the fact that obviously you say she's always doing that, because it could be maybe that you can, but again, I would assume if you're switching between universes, the implication would be that you're just switching at, like, you'll go into that universe at the exact same time. So if I switch to a different universe, it would still be 5th of March, 2024.
Yeah. Because, of course, just in terms of, like, Michelle Yeoh, she's the same age.
Yeah.
In all of the universes she goes to. So, yeah, it's not... And obviously she has a daughter who is the same age. So, yeah, like, it's the implication is, it's the same day. Yeah. Anyway, so... that was my nitpick. Of course, Michael, well, we mentioned Michelle Yeoh. She got nominated and won for Best Actress at the Academy Awards last year. And of course, Kwan won for Best Supporting Actor. And yeah, fucking Jamie Lee Curtis won for Best Supporting Actress as well, instead of Stephanie Hsu.
Yeah.
You say that last name. I hope I got it kind of right. And yeah, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Film Editing as well. The Best Film Editing is not a surprise, of course. Very fast paced. There's a lot of cuts.
Lots of editing.
Yeah, lots of editing. That means it's the best. But no, I think the editing is good in general. Yeah. So let's get into the plot of this movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. So Evelyn Wang, while audited by the IRS, discovers that she must connect with parallel universe versions of herself to prevent a powerful being from destroying the multiverse. So yeah, it's kind of like a superhero origin story, really. That's what I was thinking. Like she basically gains these superpowers, and she has to learn how to control it, of course. And she has a mentor who tells her what's happening. And yeah, it's also been compared to The Matrix a bit, of course.
Yes, I had heard. In fact, I heard somebody say that this is a better Matrix, because of course there was recently a new Matrix movie that came out, or I guess like it came out around the same time as this movie, and people were saying that this is a better Matrix movie than the Matrix movie.
Well, yeah, obviously the recent Matrix movie is not good. So,
yes, I suppose it's not that impressive.
The original Matrix, of course, you had Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne, and of course Ke Kwan is Lawrence Fishburne, but of course Ke Kwan from another universe. And yeah, of course, the reason why Michelle Yeoh, or Evelyn, is being recruited is because she is the most special. She is the one, because of her goodness, because of her untapped potential. she can therefore defeat the evil robots.
Yeah, there's kind of like a chosen one thing.
Yeah, even though that's not really the case, there is no prophecy in the Matrix. There is a prophecy.
Oh, yeah,
she's just chosen because of this untapped potential that she has. She saves the villain, of course, at the end, which is nice. She doesn't defeat the villain, and she created the villain in another universe as well, which I like. So there is sometimes in, again, superhero movies, there's not that big a connection between the villain and the hero. Again, I compare this to a superhero movie. That's obvious, I think, as to why. But yeah, of course, you have a character arc for the hero, and they are emotionally connected to the villain, and then of course the villain has their own character arc, and it's saved by the hero. So yeah, it's a very nice concept in general. It's a very nice plot in that respect. Although I guess you don't agree.
Well, Luke, first of all, let me just say that I was scrolling through the Wikipedia page and I happened to land on cast, and this is what it says: Jenny Slate as Debbie the dog mum, a laundromat customer. Her original name of Big Nose was changed for the film's digital release because of its association with Jewish stereotypes and anti-Semitism.
What do you mean? She says Big Nose like 3 times.
I'm confused by that, yeah, because I'm like, how is it changed for the digital release? I saw, so clearly something's going on there. Like maybe they only changed the digital release in certain places because.
Are you talking? Wait, maybe she's credited as. What's she credited as? She's
credited as Debbie the dog mum. So yeah, maybe that's it. So yeah, the credits, that would make sense.
The actual dialogue in the movie stays the same, but she's credited differently because she is Jewish, which is funny.
All right. So yeah, the concept. Well, you kind of mentioned a few things of the concept. I think like the general.
Well, I'm just talking about the plot and the character arcs, specifically about like the
way her relationship to the villain and things like that.
Yeah.
Yes. That was good. I think it was I think the issue is, or what I would say is, like, as soon as you find out that the villain is her daughter, I think it does make sense. But having said that, so I guess the clever thing, I suppose, is having the villain be the daughter, because I think with the villain being the daughter, it does. And I did actually write down, I think it was good that they had this element of like she has to kill her daughter, and like that was definitely a moment where I was like, okay, no, yeah, like obviously I am invested in that. I don't want to see her slit her daughter's throat with a box cutter. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, yeah. So obviously she does need to, what's the word? Redeem her daughter. So yeah, I do agree that actually was one of the
that's
impactful moments.
That's the emotional core of the movie, which you said you didn't connect to somehow.
Well, like I guess the issue is I didn't care. Okay, so what I would say is that in terms of the execution, I didn't really care about the relationship between the mum and the daughter, because I guess like the issue is that at one point she said to the granddad, oh, this is her friend, when she should have said girlfriend. To me, like that was the main thing. It wasn't, and apart from that, I was just like, okay, that's just like a mum being kind of, like it's kind of something that I guess like the issue is for me, in a way, I would just expect that to be exactly how an Asian mum would react to having a lesbian daughter. In fact, if anything, I was like, to be honest, she's kind of surprisingly tolerant of it. Like, she's completely okay with it. It's
what are you talking about? That's part of her character arc.
That she is surprisingly tolerant of it.
Well, that she becomes more tolerant. She accepts that.
But my theory, like my problem is that she seemed pretty tolerant of it from the beginning. She was basically just like,
not really.
Well, I don't know. Like, so I guess the problem is she wasn't like homophobic. She was just like.
If you notice some of the lines, she kind of was homophobic. She said multiple times, oh yeah, you're just going through a phase. Oh, that's why my daughter likes girls. It's because of you. She was pointing to the ultimate evil version of her daughter. You catch that line?
Oh yeah. Well, also I've heard that the hot dog universe is supposed to be a allegory for lesbianism, because having hot dog fingers is gross, and she thinks that being a lesbian is gross. I suppose, yes, I get what you're saying there. I guess the problem for me is it was like, because I do see what you're saying there. Because like, by the end of the movie, or like, I guess not the end, but towards the end of the movie, I was like, okay, no, I see where they're going with this, that she's like, got a bad attitude towards her daughter. But I think it wasn't fully obvious from the beginning, in my view. It was kind of like, I was like, okay, so, she's got tension with her daughter, but it seems like, I guess the problem is, to me, it seemed a bit kind of first world problems, in that a lot of the relationship between the mum and the daughter seems like the kind of very standard relationship you'd have between a mum and a daughter, such that it was a bit weird that it became this whole world-ending scenario thing for me, I suppose.
Well, she I think it's a bit worse than standard because, of course, you remember the moment where she calls her fat. Remember that?
Yeah,
moment?
that's what mums do all the time, right? They're always like, "Wow, you're getting kind of fat." That's what my grandma says to my sister sometimes.
Okay, well, again, grandma to sister's different from mother to daughter.
Yeah, I get you. In terms
but
of
there's just there just seems to be no emotional connection, and of course, there is this. It's not in her universe, but in a different universe, she pushed her daughter so hard that she, of course, had the ability then to just jump anywhere or be everywhere all at once, of course. So yeah, she knows a different version of herself failed her daughter.
One of the issues for me with, because you're saying that different versions of stuff, one of the issues for me is that I was like struggling with the idea that there's kind of this emotional arc that exists across several completely different people in different universes. Because I'm like, for me,
that's why it's so good.
In my head, the emotional arc, like I need one person who I'm like, okay, I kind of completely get what this person's deal is, and I get what this person's deal is, and the fact that there were like these emotional moments, and sometimes I wasn't even sure, like, okay, so is this, which like version of the character even is this person at this point? Which I guess like part of the issue is the fact that, they have this introduction of more, different universes, but at the same time, you're pretty much the same character emotionally and kind of like in terms of your relationships in every single universe, but you just have different abilities, which kind of was confusing to me.
You take your emotions into a new universe. So it's not like you have transformed into a completely different person. You can gain the abilities again. You can say, oh, that doesn't really make sense. Well, that the whole concept doesn't really make sense because of course it's all bullshit. But that's the thing. It's I do think that that's great. You can see her not being connected to her daughter, and you can see her. Oh, she can look at different universes and see how she's failed her daughter in these different universes, and then therefore she has this character arc where she realizes, oh yeah, I've got to save her. I haven't been treating her correctly, and I haven't basically been helping her. I think it is kind of a nice moment at the end when they reconcile. I think again, you can have a very high concept, multiverse, sci-fi movie, which this is, but again, it has to have that emotional core, those I guess heartwarming moments, that's what it has, and that's why I think people really liked it. Because it's more than just a sci-fi movie. So, Consequences, Clint Worthington wrote that for all its dadist absurdism, which is true, there is a lot of... Or is it daddiest?
I think daddiest. It's the daddiest. I think it's Dadaist.
There you go. I thought I was pronouncing
Dadaist? It sounds like a weird thing to say, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it is.
Yeah. And Blink If You Miss It Pace, which again, I'm fine with. The Daniels weaves the chaotic possibilities into the multiverse into a cohesive story. Again, that's impressive. Again, it's a cohesive story with all the madness going on. The story is cohesive. And the need to carve out your own meaning in a meaningless universe, which of course is the message. The whole, I guess, philosophical battle with Evelyn's daughter saying there is no meaning, nothing matters, I want to die. And Michelle Yeoh at the end saving her by saying no, even if we are the little pieces of shit, it doesn't matter because I'm going to be here for you, and there is meaning in what we give meaning to, and there's always going to be meaning in our lives if that's the case. Again, when you have I'm just thinking of all of what this movie does, because it's, again, we talked about the concept of jumping from universe to universe, the whole multiverse deal, the whole sci-fi concept, the character arcs, and then the themes of tackling things like existential despair, which this movie does. And the story is, like I said, it makes sense. It's cohesive. It's impressive what this movie manages to do, Michael. And I'm sorry you can't see that, honestly.
I guess one of the problems is I feel like the movie does a lot, but in my view, I don't think the movie does anything great. And I'll just touch on so the emotional thing, whatever. But there's two other things which are related, or that are kind of related to what you mentioned there.
The multiverse jumping makes sense.
I think it's not necessarily it doesn't make sense, because I don't think there's anything in it that I could nitpick. But kind of my problem there is that I don't think there's actually much kind of substance to how how it works in a way where it's like, because one of the things I think if you're introducing this is one thing I would look for if you're introducing what's the word? Like kind of new mechanic, like a world bending mechanic, is moments where it's used in like really clever ways that make you go, oh wow. And maybe I'm like neglecting it, but I'm just trying to think to myself, like, I don't think there's any moment, I kind of want to watch the movie Tenet again, just because I'm wondering if that, but like, and I can't quite think of like a really good example, but there definitely are movies where it's like, I mean, for example, this movie in my view is no Memento, just to steal another Christopher Nolan thing, where it's like, it introduces this weird kind of element. Obviously, I know with Memento, it's actually just that he's, his brain's broken. But then like, there's moments where like, oh wow, like, that's crazy. And that's kind of what I expected in this movie. I expected there would be moments where I would be like, oh, I can't believe that like this thing they introduced is reincorporated in this way, or like this mechanic that's established. Whereas it's kind of just like, it seems to me pretty basic, where it's just like, and that's the problem where I say it's not much to nitpick. It's basically just, you can access other universes where you have abilities. So sometimes she does. Oh, no, I will say there's one thing which I did think was interesting, and I did like this, and I'll give the movie credit for that. I liked the whole idea of, in order to access a different universe, you have to do something that's like so weird and bizarre that you wouldn't like normally do it. I thought that was a clever element, and I will give the movie credit for that because I liked it.
Yes.
I like the moments like, so that's actually, just to really front load a big compliment here. That's definitely my favorite moment, and obviously a lot of the funny stuff with the butt plug. I don't know. We'll get into that in a second. But like some of the stuff that they do in order to be like, this is a crazy thing that no one would ever do, and that's like that was really good. So I like that. But I think for me, if I'm going to say this movie's great, I think there would need to be more than that. Is my kind of take.
Well, I don't think so, because you do want it to be kind of simplistic. So by the end of the movie, like the audience, or not by the end, by at some point in the movie, the audience understands what is happening. Like, you can't make it too complicated, basically, which is what you're kind of implying.
Yeah, I suppose like it is an example where like I guess I can accept that the constraints of the movie, if you say it's trying, and obviously you'd say succeeding, and I'll say succeeding just for fun, or like say what it's supposed to be, a movie that introduces this really complex world building thing, or not even that complex, but like magical world building thing, and also an emotional thing, and also themes. It can't really have the kind of world building element be really expanded. Based on what the movie was trying to do, I don't think it would have ever been a movie I would really love.
Okay, there we go. Well, that sums it up, I guess. Because I think with what the movie was trying to do, it succeeded, and thoroughly. But I guess if you're just not into this kind of movie, then I mean, maybe you were never going to like it. So anyway, let's get on to just one review from A.O. Scott of the New York Times. He thought the film was, or she, I'm not sure, a swirl of genre anarchy, explaining that while the hectic action sequences and flights of science fiction mumbo jumbo are a big part of the fun, they aren't really the point. Again, that's what I agree with. It's
like you'd line these up perfectly just to respond to me.
Yes, I know. I'm great at that. It is a bittersweet domestic drama. A marital comedy, a story of immigrant striving, and a hurt-filled ballad of mother-daughter love. There you go. It is all of those things. It is everything, really.
Everywhere?
All at once. To be fair, I can't deny,
the movie definitely, with regards to the title, you can't deny that it delivers on that title.
Yeah. So Laura Zanosa from the New York Times elaborates its addressing of intergenerational trauma through healing relationships. Additionally, Emily St. James wrote on Vox that the film is part of a rising subgenre of millennial parental apology fantasy, imagining worlds in which parents and children reconcile, which is interesting. Again, that's I'm not sure if it's a fantasy necessarily, but that is, of course, the big part of the movie. Like the mother, that's the core of the movie. The mother and the daughter who have this fractured relationship, so much so that the daughter wants to kill herself and has been killing her mother through various universes. They reconcile at the end. So of course, Michael, we haven't really touched on the multiverse. Well, we kind of
the multiverse of madness, yes. So because there's obviously a narrative backstory, because I guess we've only been speaking about the mechanics so far.
Yes, so I'm going to explain that now. So co-directors Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, known as the Daniels, began researching the concept of the multiverse as early as 2010. Kwan described the release of the animated film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse in 2018, which also deals with the multiverse concept, as a little upsetting because we were like, oh shit, everyone's going to beat us to this thing we've been working on.
Yeah, you know what? I think I remember hearing that quote somewhere.
Yeah, he also stated, watching the second season of Rick and Morty was really painful. I was like, oh, they've already done it, all the ideas we thought were original. It was a really frustrating experience, so I stopped watching Rick and Morty while we were writing this project.
That's a great quote.
Yeah. So yeah, I love that. Like, oh geez, Rick. Oh, we
were on this person's movie. Shut up, Morty. We need to just help him win the Oscars.
Yeah. Again, it's like fucking Rick and Morty almost ruined a Best Picture winner. God. But yeah, that's the thing. You compare this to Rick and Morty, and maybe some of its detractors would do that, but it's a lot better, and it's a lot better than the Marvel movies, which of course have strayed into the multiverse, and it is maybe even better than Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I did enjoy that
so
movie.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I think what a lot of multiverse movies do, although I guess maybe Doctor Strange is an exception to this, but obviously you get some multiverse movies where basically the premise of the multiverse is just to introduce the idea of, oh look, there's loads of wacky, kooky, crazy characters. Interestingly, in a way, this movie doesn't do that. Not like, obviously, yes, they are different characters, but kind of like already touched on, the characters are quite similar in each of the movies. So obviously you can compare that to Spider-Verse. The whole point in Spider-Verse is that the multiverse allows there to be different Spider-Men who are totally different. Some of them are like black.
So let's get into this movie. So Evelyn Kwan is a middle-aged Chinese immigrant who runs a laundromat. 2 decades earlier, her and her husband Waymond. I thought honestly it was Raymond pronounced with a Chinese accent.
You know what? So I did watch it with subtitles because I'm a millennial. I think that's a millennial thing to watch it with subtitles. But I was like, yeah, Waymond. That's so weird that's his name.
Yeah. They eloped to the US and had a daughter. In the present day, the laundromat is being audited by the IRS. So yeah, again, you have the standard start, a lot of drama with her daughter Joy, her husband, her father, this Chinese New Year party, the IRS. It's basically... Yeah,
could you say it's ironic that her daughter's called Joy?
You could say it's ironic.
Because she's actually not very happy. I don't know if you picked that up, but I was watching this movie and I noticed that.
Yeah, again, so you get this, the standard start for, this movie, which you would expect, like Neo in The Matrix. He's depressed, just like Michelle Yeoh is. No, she's depressed. There's just too much drama going on, and her life isn't great. So, at a tense meeting with IRS Inspector Deirdre Beardy, Waymond's body is taken over by Alpha Waymond, a version of Waymond from the Alphaverse. Alpha Waymond explains to Evelyn that many parallel universes exist because every life choice creates a new alternate universe. In the Alphaverse, the late Alpha Evelyn developed verse-jumping technology, which enables people to access the skills, memories, and bodies of their parallel selves by performing bizarre actions that are statistically unlikely. This concept works, I think. Again, there's a lot of explanation, and I think Ke Kwan's character does a good job of it. But you obviously mentioned you like the statistically unlikely thing that happens.
Yes, Obviously, sometimes it's like I feel like a lot of it's eating stuff. Like he eats, what's it called, chewing gum off the bottom of the thing. But so obviously it's always funny because it's kind of just funny stuff they do. But I guess that makes sense because if there's something, lots of the statistically improbable stuff would just be random stuff.
But did you get all of that, by the way? You weren't confused?
I think, yes, everything you said I got. So can I clarify? It's called the Alpha... Oh, wait, no, there's one thing I missed, and this was even I missed in your explanation. What did they say about how new universes are created? Is it just every individual choice makes a new universe?
Yeah, individual choices make new universes, exactly.
Okay. So the thing is, what I guess I'll say, because I do think I understand all of that. You mentioned how like the Daniels were getting a bit upset that like they were seeing everyone else was making, coming up with all these ideas. The basic stuff here, I think, is all pretty simple in that like the idea of every single individual choice creates like a new universe. That's pretty basic. So wait, let me just clarify this. There's one thing. So when they get, and I think you kind of already explained this already earlier on, basically they can access the kind of knowledge of other universes, but it seems like they can also access the people of other universes, if that makes sense, because it's kind of like, so for example, sometimes she can learn kung fu from another universe, but she's still the same personality. But she learns kung fu. But with Waymond, it was like when the Alpha Waymond possessed him, that wasn't just, Waymond learned all the skills of the Alpha Waymond. He literally became Alpha Waymond. They don't, as far as I know, really ever explain why it is that sometimes you literally become the person from the other universe and other times you just get their skills. But I think if I was going to guess, it's probably to do with if you've got the little thing in your ear, you can possess other people. Whereas if you don't, so that's what determines whether or not you become that person. Yeah,
I think it's a case of like accessing the skills is the key thing, because when Alpha Waymond goes into the body of normal Waymond, he's like, again, he's not accessing any skills. But the thing is, when, for example, Evelyn, she's going into Kung Fu Evelyn's body, and then she's accessing the skills that, Kung Fu, and she's taking that Kung Fu into her body. That's different to what Alpha Waymond is doing.
Yes, there is difference. Yeah. I will say, like, the thing is, what's strange to me is that you mentioned there's a lot of exposition. In some way, I genuinely do think that, considering that some of the stuff is actually, like, I don't think it's actually that complicated. I feel like they could have somehow not needed to have as much exposition. But the thing is, I'm saying that obviously I'm not the big movie writer here, but I'm just thinking to myself, like, it felt like there were quite a few scenes where it was just like stuff was being explained.
I think it's once you get it, you get it. But you need to get it first.
Yeah. I think that's the key. One of the things is that obviously I feel like the character aspect, because obviously Gwendolyn. That's not her name, is it? Is her name Gwendolyn?
Evelyn,
that's it. Evelyn, naturally, and then, this makes sense as she reacts away. She reacts with confusion, which kind of gets in the way of Waymond explaining everything, which I guess means that the explanation kind of gets drawn out a bit more because of the characters. See, the thing is, what I was thinking about, what I was remembering, is in the original Terminator, where like Kyle Reese is driving along and he's just like aggressively explaining everything to her. Which also feels kind of unnatural. I think to be fair, like exposition, especially with like a weird thing like this, is hard to pull off. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It is hard, but again, you got to do it to make this work, to engage the audience. And I got it. I was understanding what was going on. So the multiverse is threatened by Jobu Tupaki, which is Alpha Joy, of course, whose mind was splintered after Alpha Evelyn pushed her to verse jump beyond her endurance. Jobu experiences all universes at once and can verse jump and manipulate matter at will. Yeah, so she's the master of all these universes. She can do anything. She's a god, basically.
Yeah. Master of the universe, like He-Man.
Yeah, and I like that. I think she's a good villain, good origin story, and again a good resolution to the conflict. I thought they'd explain why she's called Jobu Tupaki.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
I of course, Joe, first two letters of joy. I'm not sure. Maybe that you could probably look that up and see. So Evelyn is given verse jumping technology. She discovers other universes in which she made different choices and flourished, such as becoming a kung fu master and film star. Alpha Waymond believes that Evelyn, as the greatest failure of all Evelyns in the multiverse, has the untapped potential to defeat Jobu. Yeah, and I was thinking that, well, they better have a good explanation as to why he's picking this Evelyn. Of course, it makes sense, from a narrative perspective, this woman who owns a failing laundromat business, why is she the most important woman in the multiverse? And yeah, it's because she has the biggest potential, because she's never done anything. So she's like, her mind is therefore open to the possibilities.
It's what they call a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and she has the biggest imagination possible. She can do all these things because she hasn't done anything with her life. So yeah, it's a backhanded compliment, but I like it. The logic is there, works for the narrative. We're all good there. That's a thumbs up as well. Again, so there's logic to the plot, which I enjoy in these kind of movies. So the film,
although the thing is, well, it's not a massive issue, but isn't it a little bit like the same logic as in the Lego movie? Because my memory is that in the Lego movie, the reason why Chris Pratt gets selected as the chosen one is because he's the most boring person in the world and his mind is completely blank, and therefore he's the only person who can like learn the instructions or something. So there is like a precedent for it, but it's like, I guess if it works, it works.
Yeah. If it works, it works exactly. And I don't think it's stealing necessarily. Anyway, so the film engages textually and metatextually with the real world of the viewer. This is what people pointed out because we talked about, of course, Michelle Yeoh being her character Evelyn being a movie star, knowing kung fu, which of course is the same with her in real life. Of course, Evelyn, one version of her is she's a famous martial arts movie star, and of course that is a portrayal of Yeoh. That Ke Huy Quan's experience as a stunt coordinator is used diegetically in Wayman's fight scenes, and that James Hong's transformation into a more sinister, English-fluent, Machiavellian strategist parallels his character to Lo Pan in Big Trouble in Little China. So what do you think of that, Michael?
The parallels, so the metatextual aspect of the different characters overlapping with like their real actors' lives. Well,
the thing is, of course, you have one scene which is when they're in a movie theater.
Yes,
the film ends. They're watching a movie, just like Michelle Yeoh would be watching.
Yeah. One thing I didn't like is that they had the audience laughing, which obviously they're like you can't do that for your own movie. It's blowing themselves.
Meta stuff is nice,
Yes, I do agree. Actually, I do like it.
Okay. So Evelyn decides to face Jobu by gaining powers through repeated verse jumping. Alpha Gong Gong, convinced that Evelyn's mind has been compromised like Jobu's, sends soldiers after Evelyn. And of course the fight scenes in general are pretty good. Again, you have to have good kung fu or martial arts in a movie with Chinese people.
That is true, yeah. I'm glad that we didn't get to include that. Also, I think I liked the element where it's like the Alphaverse people kind of become the villains in a way, or at least I don't know if villains is the right word because that's a bit.
Oh, we're going to get into that in a bit.
Okay, yeah,
but I just and again in the fight scenes, one of the fight scenes we have this butt plug element, I guess.
Yes.
Which you really enjoyed.
Yes, I did. I've seen a few movies involving butt plugs, but a lot of them don't have quite the same special effects or complex plot. This is probably the most kind of sophisticated narrative movie I've seen involving a butt plug. Usually it's just, starts off with some guy delivering a pizza from a place called Big Sausage Pizza. This is very different. I think it's obviously very silly.
Yes.
It's and there's people being hit with dildos and stuff like that. I guess so. The thing is, there's a logical reason why it's there, which is good. It's not just dumb for the sake of being dumb. It's absurdist. That's part of
exactly. So while they fight, Jobu kills Alpha Waymond in the Alphaverse. As Jobu confronts Evelyn in her universe, Evelyn's mind splinters and she collapses. Evelyn verse jumps alongside Jobu across bizarre and diverse universes. Like, do they make use of the unlimited scenarios that they have created for themselves? Do they go to enough universes with this concept? Because of course, in one universe they're just rocks.
Oh, I was going to say, so that's what I was going to mention as a positive. Because you
have the fingers universe,
yes,
fingers for hot dogs or hot dogs for fingers, and you have the pinata universe as well.
Yeah, I think I've actually, you know what? It wasn't about this movie. It was a Twitter thread about cosmic horror, where basically someone was saying, like, the problem with cosmic horror is the logic's supposed to be that the most, it's really horrific because it's things beyond your comprehension. But the problem is, as soon as you try to make an actual, like, film about cosmic horror or a TV show or a book, you run into the problem that if the movie or whatever is going to have any substance at all, you're going to have to make the horror somewhat comprehensible. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. And I think it's a similar thing here where it's like, there's an upper limit to how crazy you can get with the multiverses. I was thinking myself, like, I don't think this is a good point. So it's fine. Obviously, I think this is okay, but it's just an observation I had that the plan is basically, I think I'm right. Toby Bukkake. I just realized what Bukkake is. Wants to destroy the entire multiverse. Is that correct?
No. I don't think she does want to destroy. Not at the end.
Oh, sorry.
That's what Ke Huy Quan thinks she wants to do, but she doesn't actually want to do it. She just wants to end herself, basically.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine then. Because what I was going to say is like that. It's funny that there are presumably so many more universes where no variation of either of these two main characters exist. Because obviously, there's
a little variations here and there. Yeah. So Joby reveals she does not want to fight at all, but that instead she's been searching for an Evelyn who can see, as she does, that nothing matters. She brings Evelyn to the Everything Bagel, explaining that she wants to use it to allow herself and Evelyn to truly die. The bagel makes sense because, of course, nothing matters to Alpha Joy, so therefore the most important thing ever, it's all on this bagel.
Yeah, I mean, so I liked, obviously, it's very funny because I'm in America right now, and in America they really like their bagels. I think because of their high population of, what's her name? Jenny Slates.
Dog ladies.
Yeah, dog ladies. The small dog ladies have introduced a lot of bagels. It's very important to their culture. But basically, of course, the classic seasoning you get is Everything Bagel seasoning, and we actually have some Everything Bagel seasoning in the kitchen right now.
There you go.
So,
do you want me to have Daniel Kwan explain the concept of the Everything Bagel?
I do want to have Daniel Kwan explain that concept.
Because he said, the Everything Bagel concept did two things. It allowed us to talk about nihilism without being too eye-rolly. And it creates a MacGuffin, a doomsday device. If in the first half of the movie people think that the bagel is there to destroy the world, and in the second half you realize it's a depressed person trying to destroy themselves, it just takes everything about action movies and turns it into something more personal. Which again, I agree. It's like, oh, she's going to destroy the world. Oh, she's this ultimate evil. Oh, well, kind of, but then, the nice twist, the nice version. Oh, yeah, she just wants to kill herself, and and it's more depressing, but I think it's better than the standard action movie stuff, like you said. So yeah, there you go. That's the Everything Bagel, and it's a nice, easy concept to understand. So upon looking into the bagel, Evelyn is persuaded and behaves cruelly and nihilistically in her other universes, hurting those around her. So this is an interesting turn in the movie as the hero agrees with the villain. Alpha Gong Gong, wanted Evelyn to be killed because he was worried that she would turn out like Alpha Joy. And normally, because when we follow the protagonist, and they are good, obviously, and there is this trope when in these type of movies, a cynic, I guess, confronts the protagonist and doesn't believe they'll be helpful to the cause or whatever, or in some cases thinks they should be killed, like here. The trope ends with the cynic being proved wrong, But of course, Alpha Gong Gong initially, of course, is in fact proved right, and I like that the movie went in that direction. It's a nice little twist from what you would expect. She does actually agree with the villain at first. So yeah, I don't know. I like that.
Yeah, I think it does make sense, or it's interesting that you would have that. And I suppose it means that when she changes her mind, it makes it easy for her to change the villain's mind because she already knows where the villain's coming from. And I think that is, I do think that's quite a clever way to handle it, where it's basically like, if you've got a situation where one character needs to change another character's mind, I think a good way to do that is to have that character adopt the other person's point of view temporarily, then change their own mind, and in kind of communicating and going on their own journey to change their own mind, they kind of then set up how they're going to change the other character's mind.
Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, again, she has this attitude, nothing matters because everything has happened and of course, will happen. So, there's nothing new, it's all meaningless. And of course, nihilism is also incorporated into the film's exploration of Asian American identity.
Yes.
So Annie Anlin Cheng wrote in the Washington Post, it's not only that the multiverse acts as a metaphor for the immigrant Asian experience, I guess, because
they all look the same.
No, that's racist. No, because they have to live in multiple universes. Like there's the Asian experience and there's the American experience, and like apparently that those clash and there's a lot of differences. So you feel like you're two people at once, perhaps. And I understand that, of course. Or a convenient parable for the dislocations and personality splits suffered by hyphenated, that is Asian American citizens, including in LGBT culture. I guess, I think Asians probably have a very differing view to white Westerners when it comes to, well, at least in urban areas, when it comes to gay rights.
Yeah, they call it intersectionality. I don't know if you've heard of this term.
It also becomes a vehicle for confronting and negotiating Asian pessimism, which again I didn't know that existed.
Yeah,
but
well,
apparently
I know
it does.
that I know that there's the Buddha who just said, all life is suffering, you know, so we should all just die. I also remember there's that one like 4chan meme where it's just like Asian history be like Lung Pao succeeds, Qing, whatever. It's probably saying racist good word. And then it just says 200 million perish. It's like that's sometimes what it's like when you just look at Asian history. It's just like some guy will overtake another guy, and it's just like, oh, yep, 20 million people just died. There was a riot about like grain prices or something, and everyone just died. So you can't really blame them.
Okay, so just as Evelyn enters the bagel. So, sorry, just to say, by the way, yeah, all that's good. Again, there's another metaphor there, which is Asian American identity, which the multiverse explores. So, yeah, again, this movie does everything, everywhere, all at once. So, just as Evelyn enters the bagel with Joby, she pauses to listen to Wayman's pleas in her universe for everyone to stop fighting and instead for them to be kind, even when life does not make sense. Because, again, that's the only way to survive, as he says. He is a fighter just in a different way, and I like that. And, of course, he delivers the line. Such a good line to Evelyn. In another life, I really would have liked just doing laundry and taxes with you. And again, it's great because what it says to Evelyn, you can be unsatisfied with your own,
appreciate
with your own life, but there's still meaning, in your life. There is still meaning there, and you can't ignore that. Evelyn has a existentialist epiphany and decides to follow Wayman's absurdist and humanist advice, using her multiverse powers to fight with empathy and bring happiness to those around her. In doing so, she repairs her damage in the other universes and neutralizes Alpha Gong Gong and Joby's fighters. Yeah, there's this whole weird plot thread with Raccoony.
Oh yeah. Rakakuni, I think it is.
Yeah. And I like how Michelle Yeoh initially gets it wrong, her character, because she's like, oh yeah, no, it's not Ratatouille, it's Rakakuni. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck is the movie doing? Then they pay it off later.
Yes, I did like that.
Yeah. So yeah, again, it's a subversion for what you would expect. She doesn't beat these fighters with, again, her skills. She beats them by showing them happiness. Again, it's different, but yeah, again, it takes Wayman's humanist advice. So yeah, it's really good. And of course, like I said before, Ke Huy Quan's character, Wayman, is the key to this movie because she shows her the way. He pushes back against, of course, Joy, her daughter's worldview, her nihilistic worldview. And yeah, again, the simple line, I would really like doing laundry and taxes with you. Even laundry and taxes can be fulfilling. And that's and it's delivered well by Ke Huy Quan. He's great. I love him in this movie. And in her home universe, Evelyn reconciles with Wayman, accepts Joy and Becky's relationship, and tells Gong Gong of it. Joby decides to enter the bagel alone, while simultaneously in Evelyn's universe. Joy begs Evelyn to let her go. Evelyn tells Joy that even when nothing makes sense, and even though she could be anywhere else in the multiverse, she will always want to be with Joy. Evelyn and the others save Joby from the bagel, and Evelyn and Joy embrace. And you didn't find that heartwarming, Michael?
No, not really. I guess for me, the issue is that a movie has to some extent get me early. In the problem is there can be stuff there's definitely stuff where I'm like, yeah, if I were already really invested in the movie, then I would like that. But the problem is that I found a lot of the rest of the movie so chaotic and all over the place that I was struggling to get invested in the characters for a lot of the rest of the movie. So that's my issue. It's not necessarily that I don't find that scene in isolation. I'm not obviously that's a good scene in terms of, that moment between the characters, but I just wasn't as invested in the characters beforehand.
Well, you should have been invested. You should have been invested.
Yeah.
You should. You should have.
Yeah, I hate them.
Okay, so according to Charles Bramasco of The Guardian, the Bagel of Doom and its tightening grip on Evelyn's daughter lend themselves to the climactic declaration that there's nothing worse than submitting to the nihilism so trendy with the next generation. Again, that's the thing. People viewed it as a very millennial movie, perhaps because of its rejection of a millennial mindset, which is nihilism, this millennial wanting for their parents to accept them. Maybe, again, it's not a fantasy.
Linkin Park song, I've Become So Numb.
Yes, and of course, the general fast-paced, absurdist nature, which is kind of more millennial humor, of course.
So
yeah,
random.
again. Okay. He continues, our lone hope of recourse is to embrace all the love and beauty surrounding us. There is so much beauty in the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
if
what's
only,
it called? American Beauty.
Yeah, if only we're present enough to see it. Yes, there's beauty, there's meaning in everything, and we have to see it. And yeah, again, it's ironic. I think about how this movie is all about the multiverse. The movie at the end is kind of rejecting like the multiverse, isn't it? By saying that it's like, yeah, no, because of course at the end, there's the scene in the IRS office, and Evelyn, of course, is, her attention is drawn away to her alternate selves before she grounds herself back in her home universe.
Right, yes, I guess the message there is kind of not to think about what could be and what could be different, just accept the situation you're in.
Well, yeah, not just accept it, just find happiness in that. Yeah. Like, there is beauty in everything, even, again, doing taxes.
Yeah, we must imagine Sisyphus happy.
Yeah, like there is stuff to appreciate around us, and again, nihilism, depression isn't the answer. And yeah, again, and that's the ironic thing. So we shouldn't focus on the multiverse. We shouldn't focus on all these other different possibilities and let our mind wander about, what about all of this? Nothing really matters because of all this. No, that's not the case. There is meaning in every universe, in every life. And yeah, it's a really nice message to end the movie with, which apparently, again, you don't like.
So here's one thing about the ending, and it's kind of one of my issues with, like I say, movies that I think try to do a lot, is that I end up comparing them to other movies that tried to do the same thing, but because they had focus, they did better. So one of the things that I wrote, this is the last thing I wrote. My last note I wrote, ending is just worse version of Arrival. Because if you remember, in Arrival, she slowly, whatever her name is, Amy Adams, slowly learns to kind of go beyond linear time until by the end of the movie, she's able to completely see all of time at once. And there's the whole thing about how, like, her daughter died and she gets divorced from Jeremy Renner. But then at the same time, she's also getting in a relationship with Jeremy Renner, and it's like this weird thing where, like, time kind of collapses in on itself, but it's really emotionally resonant because she's like, I'm going to do it anyway. But like, it works because the whole movie was kind of building up to that. So it's fine, and I do like it, but my brain's thinking, well, I saw this other movie where the entire point was this slow build up to Amy Adams' decision to decide to live her life anyway, even while knowing that all time is a circle and nothing is linear, and eventually everyone she loves is going to die and everything's going to disappear into nothingness. So that's like the issue for me, basically. Like, when I see a movie like this, I'm like, okay, but I'm thinking about another movie that hit me with this more impactfully. But it is different stuff, obviously, I guess, because it's like, this is about the multiverse. So yeah, I guess like that's my only problem.
I mean, you talk about Arrival, another great movie, another great.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, I suppose like Arrival. I guess as the saying goes, there's no shame in being beaten by the best.
Yeah, again, it's very different to this movie, but obviously Arrival is incredible as well. So that makes sense. So anyway, let's conclude now, Michael. I'll go first because you just talked for a bit there. I mean, I think this movie, again, it does so much, it aims for so much, and it pulls it up, it executes it well. Again, I think, the anarchy of the movie is fun. If you like that, I do. It's fine. And you're trying to keep up with all these concepts, what's happening. But again, you eventually get into it, and it's really satisfying to watch it all, come to fruition. And yeah, of course, all the themes, all the character arcs which we've gone through, etc. Yeah, that's all. It's great, and I think it pulls it off so well. This movie has it aims so high, and it could have faltered. And it could have been quite poor. And of course, you've got the acting performances as well, which are really good. And I'm just thinking, well, Daniel Scheinert and Daniel Kwan really pulled it off. I think this, probably is going to be I'm thinking like a 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I think I am going to give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's really good. Again, it gets that high mark because of the emotional drama, the emotional heart of the movie, which is the key to making great movies. again, and when that's really good, then that elevates it. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for me. That's probably the most important factor. So yeah, go on there. Dismiss this movie.
Okay, I'll dismiss it.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, look, there's just a external noise that came on, so you'll probably hear this in the recording, but you know what, it's right at the end, so who cares? It's some kind of weird ventilation thing. Look, the thing about this movie is I'm very much able to accept that there is a certain kind of movie that I think I just like less than the average person, and that kind of movie is a movie where it's very hectic. I think it's fine, but it just creates an inevitable limit on a movie, because for me, like, all the sort of deep thematic movies I like tend to be kind of slow, and, you know, they really take their time and are kind of contemplative. And this movie wasn't that. I think for me, the issue is the movie didn't do anything great. And my main, in a weird way, like, even though this isn't really the core, one of the things it comes back to is the fact that when I heard about this movie and it was like called Everything Everywhere All at Once, I was like, oh, it's going to be like this kind of totally crazy, trippy movie, but a movie that's crazy and trippy, but has those moments where you're like, oh, that's really kind of like interesting or clever. And there weren't as many of those moments as I wanted there to be. You know what? I've committed myself to saying that I didn't really like it, so I'm gonna give it a high 6, which you're gonna say is very low, and you're gonna hate me, and everyone's gonna make fun of me.
Yeah.
But I still think it's it's good. But just for me, it's not my type of movie, and I'm sure at some point in the future there'll be a similar movie where it's like really kind of crazy and hectic, and you might like it, and I might show up and say the exact same stuff and be like, okay, I'm prepared for this.
Okay, well, yeah, I like any good movie, basically, and this is, again, really good. I like how the last two Best Picture winners, which I assume will be Oppenheimer, I've given a 9.5 and a 9 out of 10 to, and you've given like a 6.5 and a 7 to, or something. So
if I was on the Academy?
Yeah, you should really like better movies. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, let us now go... Oh, well, what do we do next week?
Next week, we're doing a big, old, fat extravaganza. For some reason, my thing is broken, like my what's it called?
Okay,
I can say, so basically we're doing every single movie, and the movies we are doing more specifically are Dum-pa-dum-pa-dum. It's the Oscar Roundup. We're doing Banshees of Ed Sheeran, The Fabelmans, All Quiet on the Western Front, Triangle of Sadness, Women Talking, and Tar. That's how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 movies. So yeah, we're going to be giving a pretty broad review of them.
Yeah, no, I will spend like 10 minutes on each.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, join us for that next time, and of course we'll also rank all the best picture nominees from last
and of course
year's Oscars.
the other thing I should say is that we'll be doing our Oscar like predictions and results.
That will already
have come out. Okay, never mind that.
Okay, right. So yeah, join us for that next time. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael,
and I've been Luke. Thanks for listening to our review of Everything Everywhere All at Once, and that's the last time I'll have to say that.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Guten Tag.